Hey, I got a treat for you here. This is going to be over my first car that I had. And growing up as a kid, of course, I liked cars, and I was really into the Dukes of Hazzard. And believe it or not, my very first car was a 1969 Dodge Charger. And most people's going to ask, do you wish you still had it? Yeah, I do. But I've had a lot of fun with the different cars and stuff I've had. Now, granted, if I'd kept that car and all the money I'd put in these others, put into that Charger I had, yeah, I'd had a lot of, a really fast car, but just at the time I was a teenager and it was just tore up all the time. I didn't know much about mechanics or anything, and just after I got that little Dodge Dakota, I didn't know any better. I was just happy I had something that was reliable. Now, I did have a lot of fun with that Charger, and our friend Tim Hufford, he ended up putting a Mopar. I think back then they called them a purple shaft, but it was a camshaft. I think it was a 280 with 480 lift, and then we ended up putting I think it was a Torker intake on it. It was a big single plane, and then an 850 Holly, and then it had a posi with 323 gears, and I thought we was putting in a aftermarket converter. I thought we was going to have more stall, and it didn't. So with that, you know, even though it was a big block, it wasn't a high performance big 383. That's what was in it, a 383, and it just, man, from the takeoff, it was a dog. And once it hit about 2,500, it would wrap that tack like crazy. But getting to that 2,500 was, that was a challenge. So, knowing what I know now, I would have put like a big dual plane intake on it, try to keep, more torque with it. And we did have headers, long tube headers, and had 3-chambered Flowmasters on it, and with 2.5-inch exhaust. I mean, the car sounded good, loped really good. It was great. It just needed more gear and definitely needed more converter. But at the time, like I said, I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't know much about mechanics anyways. And we actually picked up that camshaft and that intake from a Mopar Nationals. We went to Indianapolis, me and my dad, and they had a big Mopar National there. Well, on the vendor's lane or whatever, we seen this, what is it, the vendor's lane or on the, like, swap meet, we found this Torker intake, and for a big block, and I think I gave like $80 for it, and then, picked up that camshaft, and I was in heaven. I thought, man, I'm going to have a screamer now. That old car's going to fly. Well, it would fly once you hit 2,500. But like I said, you live and learn, you grow and educate yourself some, and, would I like to have another one? Yeah, but my dream car is a 73 or 74 Cuda. That's what I want. That's one of these days, money gets there and everything, that's my dream car. I'd like to have definitely a big block. It could be a 440. You can make a lot of power at 440. Don't have to be a Hemi, but I want a 4-speed. I don't want an automatic with it. I want something I can drive, something that's got a lot of power to it, but something that's streetable. And, if we had tons of money, it'd be cool to put like a Hellcat engine in it with like a 6-speed in it. But, tried and true 440, you can't go wrong there. So, for the purists out there, no, it wouldn't be LS swapped. It would have a Dodge engine in it. But I've got some pictures I'm going to start here. And the first pictures I put up there is actually my graduation pictures. Believe it or not, there was a time I was young and skinny. But now I'm just old and hard to steal. But, but the first pictures I put up there is from my when I was about to graduate, my senior pictures, and then also I had some pictures of the engine the spark plug wires are all over the place. It's not cleaned up at all. But it had that, you had that big block and then this monstrous 850 Holly sitting on top of it, big old double pumper. And yeah, it probably could have used a 750 instead of 850. But at the time, I didn't know. I was just tickled I had all this performance stuff. And I didn't know a whole lot about mixing and matching. So, and later on, growing up, of course, we didn't have an internet or nothing like that out there where I was living at. I lived with my mom and dad. But I did have old Hot Rod and Carcraft magazines. And actually, I learned quite a bit from that. So, I learned that, what was that? There was some article where they was talking about how you need to match all the components, like the intake, cam, heads, converter, all that stuff needs to match up. And it was, I cannot remember what that article was called. But they was talking about how you can make, get all that matched up and have a proven performance package, and how somebody shows up with a bunch of, they call it Mr. High and Mighty, shows up with all the money on this shiny car, and then old Joe No Name blows them off in the weeds because his car is making the better power and stuff. So that ain't exactly how it went, but just when I read that, that was just super funny to me. But I did, of course nowadays you've got the YouTube and the internet and all this stuff. Man, back in the day, whenever you get that Carcraft magazine or that Hot Rod magazine, man, that was so cool seeing all them cars. And when I was a teenager, we was coming up in the Pro Street era, and man, all them big tired cars and making big power, and not all of them made big power, but those were actually, most of them was actually legit cruisers. They actually drove them things around, and that was just a really cool time for me. And the old Charger, that car was a lot of fun. Like I said, we had a bunch of problems with that old car. And my dad had a 1968 Plymouth Roadrunner. And he put the money into it and got it restored. And it had a 33 high performance. And then it was yellow. I don't know that I got any pictures of it. But I might be able to look up some. But then that was actually my first lesson he gave me out the drag strip. I told Gavin about this and he thought it was hilarious. But we went out to the drag strip. At this time I'm driving and stuff, and I got this, Charger and stuff. Didn't have cam stuff in it yet. But still, I was proud of my old car. And Dad had not taught me the trick of leaving on orange. Because by the time it hits green, you're late. Because the way our tree was out there at George Ray's, when that orange popped up, you go. Because by the time our cars moved, they're just automatic foot brake. By the time our cars moved, green's on. Well, he had not taught me this trick, and my father, which he probably beat me anyways, he run off and left me. But I was like, good grief, how'd you leave me so hard? And he's like, you leave on orange. He had not told me that little piece of information. So my dad did not have any mercy on me at all. And he shouldn't have. Looking back, that was funny. And Gavin, he thought it was funny too. But man, that old Roadrunner run good. Of course, they wouldn't run like my Mustang stuff did, because those cars were heavy. But man, those old Roadrunners and Chargers, that's a level of cool that is hard to beat. And they did run good. And speaking on that, we went to a Mall Nationals. It might have been Indianapolis. I think it was. It was either Indianapolis or Columbus, Ohio. And even back then, this was 92, 93, I think. And they had some of these little Omnis. Of course, I grew up reading the Hot Rod and stuff, and now these big muscle cars were so fast. They had these little Omnis and stuff with these little four-cylinders, even back then with turbos and stuff, and they was whooping a lot of them big muscle cars, and I was like, that is not supposed to happen. But it was. I seen it right there. Of course, I didn't know at the time all the technology and stuff. They was already doing it back then. Because, they weren't making just probably stupid power, but when you got a very lightweight car with a good performing engine in it, that just equals fast. So that was a life lesson to me, is that, just because you got a big muscle car don't mean you're going to always win. But, like I said, cool factor, you just can't hardly beat it. And like I said, eventually that was my '69 Dodge Charger. Loved that old car. And like I said, my dream car is a '73 or '74 Cuda, and hopefully one of these days I'll have one. And Gavin wants a GTO Judge. So yes, it's not a Mopar, but that's what he likes. And I don't know if we'll get him a Judge, but I'd like to one day at least get like a Le Mans or something, do like a clone. That'd be fine for him. But that's something that, even though you think I'm just a Mustang guy, and I do love my Mustangs, from the beginning, I was a Mopar guy. It was Mopar or no car. And had one of my buddies I used to go to school with. His name was David Bennett. He was, one of my best friends, and he had a 1970 Dodge Dart. Boy, that thing was bright yellow. I remember he had like 12-inch glass packs on it. It had a small block, but man, them old pipes was loud. Just that we had some fun times, and part of the fun too, believe it or not, we would, like in high school, we'd drive to Jonesboro, and they had a Votech over there, and part of the school day, we'd be over, with Votech. The first year I took art, because I liked drawing and all that stuff, and then the second year I got into auto mechanics, and I'm just going to say that on the way back, we might or might not have broken the speed limit sometimes, but we had a lot of fun coming back, so... And then I'll tell a story. I know my buddy Kevin probably remembers it. We was working on, I think it was the carburetor or the timing or something. And keep in mind, I don't know much about cars at this time. I'm learning. I'm green. I'm trying to learn what I can. And this thing backfired and blew fire out of the carburetor. And the first thing I thought was, this thing's going to blow up. And I took off running. I kid you not. That was, looking back, hilarious. Thankful my buddies put it out for me. I thought we was all going to die. So I took off running. And yes, Kevin, you probably remember that. But, that was, I had some really good friends going over there, and we just had a lot of fun over at Votech. But that's one of the funny stories on me. I don't care to tell funny stories on me because, hey, everybody needs a good laugh. So if something crazy I do makes you laugh, great. I'll laugh with you probably. So, world's too uptight. Y'all need to, we all, not y'all, we all need to, like sitting around in the house today, I've been kind of down a little bit, and I thought, shoot, I'm going to get up and sit around and do something. So, get outside, go get some sunshine, better put your coat on if you're here in Arkansas, because it's cold. But, let's get back to having some fun times, people. Drag racing season's coming up, and I want to keep producing these videos and stuff for you, and like I said, I'll have some. You've seen the pictures of the old Dodge Charger, and I don't know if you see it on that picture or not, but I called that car Crud Muffin because it was always dirty. Because back then, my folks lived on a gravel road, so even if I washed that car, some car come flying by, I could see the dust just floating over, and it's like, why do I even wash this thing? I know, but that was the most car. Back then, I don't know. Well, I say back then, even now probably. But it was just, I just had a lot of fun. Even before I had my license, I'd go out to that car and start it and just rev it and just kind of listen to it. I don't know how long, how many hours I probably spent out there burning gas just listening to that car because I couldn't drive at the time. I was still a teenager. But, that's some of my past, and this was my first car, and I'd like to have another muscle car one of these days, and just whatever the good Lord blesses me with, and He opens or gives me the opportunity, and I work hard and try to get the money and stuff, or He blesses me with it, however He wants to do it, and just I want y'all and me to be like a YouTube family. That's what I want. You see me out the track, I ain't no better than anybody else. Let's talk, cut up, have a good time. That's what I want. Let's have a good time. And I'll be showing other cars and stuff I've had in the past, but the old Chargers, that was the first one. And just, I had another, one year for Christmas, before I wrap this up, one year for Christmas, I had ordered long tube headers and mufflers. And my big thing was when the UPS guy showed up, I was like a kid at Christmas. Every time that happened, that was just part of it, and that's why I got that UPS little toy truck up there. Because that was such a good time to me because I knew parts was coming. Well, one Christmas, I thought that there was no way when I ordered it that stuff could get here for Christmas. And at the time, I was wanting a four-wheeler. And my folks told me there's something out there in the shed for you. I thought it was a four-wheeler. Well, I went out there, and there was these parts for my Charger. Now, don't get me wrong. It was okay I didn't get that four-wheeler because my parts come in. I was super happy because them parts come in because there was no way they was going to be here in time. But they was. And just, like I said, that was just awesome to me. My parts come in. I was going to get to do this performance stuff because most of the time, there was one time I was, keep in mind, I'm working at a fish restaurant. And I had saved $2,000, which for a kid working at a fish restaurant, that was a lot of money. And this old car started tearing up on me and took every bit of it just to keep that car going. I mean, that was a lot of fun, but, you know, once I got that little Dakota, then I was making a monthly payment, but I wasn't constantly sinking money into it trying to keep it going. But, you know, I'd been better off probably to have kept the car and kept the truck. But, you know, live and learn. But like I said, I've had a lot of fun over the past different cars and stuff I've had. But like right now, old spare change out there, I've had several of the coupes like that, and I'm pretty much keeping that one. I've spent all this time and money building these old cars, and then just keep selling them. And a big deal for me was I'd get burned out on it. And like when we was building spare change, me and Bobby had been working on this car a lot, and I just got burned out. I didn't even want to look at it. So I took a whole month off and didn't even touch that car, just got away from it. And then later on, I got the fever again. Well, when I had the fever, I had a car, so I didn't have to start from scratch again. So if you got a project and you're burned out on it and thinking about selling it, just stay away from it for, if you have to, several weeks, and then maybe eventually this fire back up, and whenever you get ready to, you're already at least halfway there. So anyways, I'll quit rambling. But that was my first car, and I hope y'all enjoyed it. And you know, this was, you know, I'm not just a Ford guy. I like Chevrolets and Dodges, but it all started with Dodge. So anyways, hope y'all enjoyed it. Share and like if you would. And God bless. See y'all.